I love jazz. I listen to it all the time. Many people consider jazz to be America's greatest original art form. Other people say if you need to define jazz, well, then you just don't get it. However, one definition I heard that I really liked was jazz is spontaneous composition. And when those guys are in the pocket, as they say, and improvising and communicating with each other, it's like magic to me. So I just love that kind of stuff. But how do I talk about jazz in a 10-minute video? I mean, it took Ken Burns almost 20 hours to do a documentary about it. So I figured I'm going to need to narrow it down. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. Here's my closet, full of all the stuff that I love. And today I'm going to talk about what is probably my favorite jazz label of all time, Blue Note. I'm going to start with what for many, many years was my white whale, or you might say my blue whale, or you might say my holy grail, because this is a box set, the Blue Note years. It was their 60-year anniversary, 1939 to 1999, and I saw it first at the Monterey Jazz Festival in one of the vendor booths, and I didn't buy it, and I kicked myself for a long time, and then I couldn't find it for a decent price anywhere. Finally, I got it on Amazon, and let's take a look at what's inside this beautiful box set. First, you have this very nice glossy booklet, which is mainly just photographs, 1939, and starting with different photographs of the sessions and some of the artists involved. And going to 1999. Then you have 7 double CDs going in chronological order. And let me show you briefly what each CD is. Each CD comes with a booklet, and this booklet tells you everything you need to know about who is on each recording session and when it was recorded. And then you have the 2 CDs for each one. And then each one is a different title. Like this one is Boogie, Blues, and Bop, and it gives you the year 1939 to 1955. And so you can see these compositions mostly are pretty short, and then they got a lot longer as the years went by. So you have some real old timers like Earl Hines and Sidney Bechet. And then it's getting a little more modern with Thelonious Monk, one of my favorites, Bud Powell, Milt Jackson, and there's Miles Davis and Horace Silver. So this is Volume 1. Volume 2 is really getting into my favorite era of Blue Note jazz, and this is the Jazz Message. And this is from 1955 to 1960. And we see some of the artists here. We have the Jazz Messengers, Horace Silver. These are all just classic compositions. Hank Mobley, Sonny Rollins, Johnny Griffin, John Coltrane, Lee Morgan, some great artists on here. Stanley Turrentine, who I had the pleasure of seeing live once at a small club in New York. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. That's sort of like almost a school that almost every jazz performer has gone through, ranging from Miles Davis to Wynton Marsalis. Volume 3 continues with some really great stuff. This is called Organ and Soul, and again, this is from the 50s and 60s, 56 to 67. Some of these compositions are the leader is an organ player, and some of them just have an organist in there. Then it gets into some soul type of music with the Sidewinder and Wayne Shorter with Adam's Apple. So a little bit of a mix. Again, not a bad song or composition in this whole set. Volume 4 is Hard Bop and Beyond. This is 63 to 67. And now we have some excellent stuff. We have Cheesecake by Dexter Gordon. I was lucky enough to see him. He actually opened for Miles Davis at the Hollywood Bowl. They were both sort of in the twilight of their careers. Some great artists here. There's Herbie Hancock again, Wayne Shorter, Joe Henderson, Freddie Hubbard. All these guys are just excellent, excellent performers. Now we're getting into the 60s, 63 and 67. This is the avant-garde. Now up to now, most of the stuff that I've been showing you is pretty accessible, pretty melodic stuff. That kind of changes with some of this. I'm not a real big fan of this avant-garde type of jazz, but it has some high points. Notably Eric Dolphy, Hat and Beard, and also Out to Lunch, which is the name of his most famous album. But then some of this free jazz stuff is a little too dissonant for me, but some people like it. Volume 6 is getting further into more of a modern era. We have this from 75 to 98, and this is the new era. And you have a mix, really, of some classic performers like Donald Byrd and Freddie Hubbard, Woody Shaw, McCoy Tyner, who played with Coltrane for many years. And then you have some newer folks like Stanley Jordan, the guitar player, Diane Reeves, the singer, John Scofield, excellent guitar player. So this is sort of a mix of new and old artists. And finally, Volume 7 is Blue Note, Now as Then, and this is just the most contemporary stuff they had at this point in 1999, where you had some of their classic compositions like Maiden Voyage done by newer, younger artists. Little Bee's Poem by Kevin Eubanks, the guitar player. And some other song for my father by Renee Rosnes. So classic compositions from Blue Note done in a new style. So there's all the CDs together again, and this is going to be a tough one to find. But if you are interested in buying CDs, I know not many people are anymore, you can find some of these online, probably on eBay also, for a decent price. Finding this whole box is going to be a little bit tougher. Now let's take a look at some single CDs that I have. I don't have too many single CDs, but I do have Blue Train by John Coltrane. And there's the performers on there. You have Lee Morgan on trumpet. And, a lot of these guys performed on everybody's albums. So once you get into this kind of stuff, you start recognizing the names. And now it's one guy's turn to be the headliner, and the other guys are the session guys. And you begin to know them, and sometimes even know who it is just by listening to them. But this is a solid Coltrane album before he moved on to a different label. Something Else is another classic one. This is Cannonball Adderley. We've got Miles Davis, Hank Jones, Sam Jones, Art Blakey. There he is again. He always shows up. And there's the track list. For some reason, this one on Amazon is going for a lot of money. I don't know why. If you're not sure where to start, try something like this, the Best of Blue Note. You can get this used for probably $5 or so. And there's not a bad track on here. Look how long the tracks are, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So this is where they really stretch out. Every single one of these, there's 9. It's a total time of 70 minutes. Every single one of these is a classic composition. If you look for the Best of Blue Note CDs, you are going to find different types of editions. Some are double CDs, some are single ones like this. But keep in mind that if you want to get into this stuff, if you have a streaming service, just type in the search bar, type in Blue Note Jazz, and you're going to find all types of stuff. Some specific albums like this is on there, and this one. And then you're going to find a lot of compilations and playlists of different Blue Note stuff. You might want to keep it to Blue Note Jazz Classics to get some of this more classic, older stuff from the 50s and 60s that I recommend. The other thing I wanted to show you is this book on Blue Note, the album cover art, because I really like how their album covers look. And you'll see a consistency amongst the album covers, and that's because one guy named Reed Miles designed over 500 of their covers for 15 years. So there's a uniformity to the look. You can look at a Blue Note album cover and you'll know right away that's a Blue Note. It's very distinctive. He uses certain types of colors and certain types of typography. There's Dexter Gordon. And you'll notice not a whole lot of colors in most of them. maybe 3 colors. But they're very bold. And he had to communicate to the listener, here's what you're going to feel when you put this album on, trying to communicate a feeling to them. There's a great one, Idle Moments, the Grant Green album. Then he started playing with topography. So he started using different types of topography and making them very large, and there's no photo on that one. Sometimes he did use photos, like that one there. It's a little abstract. Then sort of a 60s influence peeped into it. Kind of a Warhol influence there. And that's one of my favorites, Midnight Blue, great album by Kenny Burrell. There's the one I showed you before. And some of the back covers also were very consistent as well. So you can find this book online, probably used. It's probably out of print, but you can get it for a pretty decent price. It's about 115 pages. And the look of Blue Note was, some of these covers were also imitated by other artists as well. If you're already into jazz, hopefully this was a nice trip down memory lane. Or if you want to get into it, I hope this was a nice introduction to it for you. The last thing I wanted to show you was this fantastic keychain that I've been carrying around for the last 40, 50 years. It's from the Blue Note Jazz Club in New York City, world's finest jazz club. And it's a little worse for wear, but there it is. Hope you liked this episode. I'm going to talk about jazz in a future episode from another perspective. Feel free to leave a comment or a suggestion. Feel free to leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe if you like. Feel free to share this with your friends or neighbors. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.